Said like reviews.
Thank you all for tuning in for today's webinar. And today we will be discussing tips on how to ace your next job interview. And some of the topics we'll be going over is how to research the company, how to prepare for the interview, and how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we will be going over some strategies for that, which is very important on the job interview as well as the hiring process. All right, and some words to live by. Experience is life's best teacher. Experience is life's best teacher. Definitely words to live by, and quote that we live by here and we go by here as far as our company culture. All right, but let's go ahead and get right into it as far as 3 tips to help you ace your next job interview. First, you'll want to research the company. And with doing that, you want to find out who you'll be working for, and also make sure during your research that you are looking the part. Research, the proper attire. 2, you want to prepare for the interview. So familiarize yourself with your resume. Highlight your professional and personal journey, during your preparation. And also prepare questions as well as answers for the interviewer. Well, prepare questions rather for the interviewer, and as well as prepare answers to common interview questions, because they are out there. You want to make sure you do that. And during your prep, you want to cap it off with doing a practice run, or as we call it, a dress rehearsal. So you want to make sure you do that as all part of your preparation for the interview. And tip number 3 is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And with that, we go over strategies to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, such as a strategy for answering challenging questions, a strategy to ensure you arrive on time, and reviewing your bullet points, a strategy for giving flawless answers and responses to the questions you'll be presented with, and of course a strategy for ensuring you have ample rest, so you don't have to make those uncomfortable, hey, I'm going to be late, or hey, I'm not really sure where I'm at calls to the interviewer. All right, tip number 1 is to research the company. And we'll discuss how to properly research the company. All right, so first things first, with doing your research, you want to find out who you might be working for. After all, the purpose of research is to find out who the company is. And candidates, who are out there, anyone who's attending the webinar, and you're unfamiliar with the company that you're applying to, you need to conduct research on that company prior to even preparing for the interview. This is part of the prep process, but you need to do your research. This is number 1. Do your research. All right. Prior to any prep, do your research. And some of the things you should be looking for while you're doing your homework, doing your research, is 1, where they're located, who are they, and what do they do. Also, look into who the founders are, the board of directors, and any other leadership members you're able to look up. You also want to get familiar with the company goals and their mission statement. Look into the company's background and their history as well. That's very important. You don't have to do a research paper, but just look into it. Usually they have a about us section on their website. Check that out real quick. It's usually just a couple sentences long. Give it a quick glance over, read it thoroughly, not glance, but read it thoroughly, and understand their background and history. Go over any recent milestones or any other significant achievements the company may have, as you can leverage that while you're responding. Also, look into any volunteer work or initiatives they're involved in. Specific details about the department you'll be working in will be very, very helpful. Look into any current events that the company may have. And overall, be sure when you're looking all of this up that you're seeing how you can apply it to being a contribution to the success of the company. So ensure you're applying this research and pivoting that back to, hey, this is why I'm a good fit for the job. So that's what this research is about. So the end goal is to ensure that, hey, I am a good fit because I also, agree with these qualities. Now, although you shouldn't really bring it up in the interview, I don't recommend this at all. You should be researching any red flags such as lawsuits. Your career is your investment. So you always, always, always want to learn as much as you can about your potential employer. To ensure you're making the best choice for your future, look up the good as well as the bad. Start your research by looking at company reviews on their website or their social media pages like LinkedIn. Companies usually include a link to their site in any email correspondence. So if they've reached out via email for an interview, use their company link and give them a checkout. Try to research the decision makers. They may show up in a Google search or a LinkedIn search. Look for any video testimonies from current or past employees. Finding video footage of the facility and work environment can help you become familiar with the layout of the facility when you arrive. So definitely look for that as well, because that can be real helpful when it comes to getting there. Let's say you know that the receptionist is on the second floor. When you arrive to the gate, you can say, hey, I'm looking for the receptionist for ABC company. I believe they're on the second floor, and they can direct you right there. Now you're punctual, and you've also established your professionalism. So keep that in mind and use those little hints, those little tips to get you that little edge that you'll need. All right. Also, with doing your research, you want to make sure that you also research the dress code. Make sure you look the part. This is especially crucial, So whether you're doing a video or an in-person interview, choose the right attire. And choosing the right attire is more than just ironing your suit or making sure you have matching makeup. Whether you're doing video or in person, make sure your attire fits in. Make sure it fits in what the company wears. Take a look at the attire at the of the companies. Excuse me. Take a look at the attire that the employees are wearing when you're looking at the website. Look out for that. See how the dress code is. It'll help get an idea of the work culture. Your appearance is the first thing the interviewer notices. So be sure to choose an outfit that will make a lasting impression. So, for instance, if you know the job requires you to wear a polo and jeans, at the interview, you should show up, whether it's a phone interview, well, not phone interview, excuse me, a video interview or an in person interview with a shirt and tie or a suit and tie. You want to dress up. If you know that it's a company where they wear uniforms, you still want to dress up. Have on your Sunday's best. It's okay. You want to make that lasting impression. It will definitely make an impression with the hiring manager. I know many occasions when I've seen someone come in, maybe for a manufacturing job, and they have on a shirt and tie. It definitely makes an impression on me. It even makes me perk up a bit with my professionalism. So I can tell you, as a hiring manager myself, that those little hints and those tips will help out. So you want to make sure you look the part. Definitely incorporate that. Include that in your research. That's definitely helpful. All right. Tip number 2, prepare for the interview. And here we'll discuss a few topics on how to productively prepare for the interview. So we'll go a few strategies, few topics here that's going to help you ace that next job interview you got coming up. I know you want some good tips, and we're here to help out. All right. So first things first, as far as your preparation, you want to familiarize yourself with your resume. The interviewer will usually have a copy of your resume in front of them and glance at it from time to time throughout the interview. They also may want additional details, so be prepared to explain your credentials clearly. Prior to the interview, make a note, a detailed bullet list of all the training, certifications, and experience that you have that's relevant to the position you're interviewing for. Make a brief note of that. All right. Also, while you're doing your prep for the interview, make sure you highlight your personal and professional journey. All right. You may be asked certain questions that require you to respond with real life experiences as the answer. It can be challenging to come up with that type of response on the spot. However, if you're prepared for it, you can answer those questions pretty seamlessly because it's going to be muscle memory. And relevant examples can be difficult to come up with on the spot. It really can. And a good way to prepare for those are to make notes. Some things you can, note are obstacles you've overcome, goals you've accomplished, how you learned from your mistakes, anything you've taught other employees, your involvement in projects and initiatives, what you've learned from other employees. As tempting as it is to prepare full answers, refrain from doing it. It's not realistic, and I can assure you, hiring managers are looking for authentic responses. Like they want to see that you're original and they want to see you're a professional. So try to practice short answers and just go off of a short bulleted list and have some short points that'll be insightful responses. That'll be the best way to go about it. It really is. Just ensure it's highlighting your personal as well as professional journey. That way, the interviewer has a good idea that you know how to separate professional as well as personal, but you're also letting them know that, hey, you have goals in mind and that's what you're here to accomplish. But again, you want to make sure you're highlighting these because it'll be a great response when it comes to a lot of the questions that you'll be asked, because these are a lot of a lot of the questions you're asked, as far as obstacles you've overcome, as far as what you've learned from other employees or what you've learned from leadership or anything that you've taught another employee. So these are all things that come up. So just make a bulleted point, some short responses for that. Make some notes on it. All right. As When it comes to preparation, you'll also want to make sure you prepare answers to common interview questions. Most companies will ask a similar line of interview questions, and these questions will help interviewers get to know if you're a good fit for their company. The framing of your words when you respond is important to the message that you're trying to put out there. So, just do a quick Google search and you're usually able to come up with some additional examples of common interview questions. And usually they'll give you some brief responses or full responses as well. So you'll be able to be even more prepared, because I can tell you a lot of the questions can be similar, especially if you're paying close attention, although it may sound different because of the framing, but the notes, nuts and bolts are the same. Trust me there. All right. So here's a few examples of some interview questions. All right. And these are rather common. I'm sure you've all heard this. If you have done an interview before, can you tell me about yourself? Now, this one can be a little challenging or a little bit uncomfortable when it's on the spot. So, get a response ready for that. What makes you a good fit for the job? Another one that can be a tad bit uncomfortable when asked on the spot. Why do you want to work here? That falls under that line as well. What are your strengths? And of course, what are your weaknesses? These are all common job interview questions. All right. So you also want to prepare questions to ask the interviewer. Most interviewers are trying to find out your interest in the company as well as your interest in the job position. So having questions ready that are relevant to the role and the company is a great way to demonstrate your interest. Engaging questions also helps the interviewer understand the level of preparation that you've done for the interview. If you're able or if you're provided with who will be conducting the interview, feel free to look them up on LinkedIn or online as well. Of course, professionally. Don't look them up personally. There's no need for that. It's not all that productive, in my opinion. But look them up on LinkedIn. Be as prepared as you can. That way, you're able to make a great first impression because that's going to be the long lasting impression. All right. And final here, as far as it comes to prepping for the interview, you want to make sure you do a practice run. Conduct a mock interview with a family member or a friend. That way, you're able to walk into that interview with confidence, as well as get some of those cobwebs out. I mean, let's face it, you don't want to roll out of bed and then go to the job interview. You got all kind of cobwebs. You don't want the first time you're talking for the day to be to the person asking you questions about a job you want to get. You don't want that to be the case. So definitely get the cobwebs out. And like I said, it also helps build that confidence. So you have that muscle memory when they're asking you questions on the spot. You're able to just go ahead and give them a seamless response. Remember, the goal is to get comfortable with answering questions on the spot, as well as get comfortable with speaking about yourself, because that can be a bit uncomfortable. Let's face it. When you have to start talking about yourself and your accomplishments, it can be a little uncomfortable. It can put you on the spot. It can make you feel like it's challenging. And you want to make sure when you're hit with those questions that you're able to respond with no problems, no issues. Also, you may want to have a dress rehearsal to ensure you're comfortable in your interview attire as well. So, if you're gonna call your mom or your cousin and say, "Hey, here's 5 questions. Can you ask me those?" Because again, you want to keep it kind of short. And we're in a time and day where everything's fast paced. So asking someone to sit there with you for an hour is going to be very difficult. But if you say, "Hey, can you just ask me these 3 interview questions?" Give them 5, and then call them, or if they can just come in the room real quick. But just ensure you dress up. That way, hey, you may have not known that that dress shirt you like has a tag that pokes you in the neck, and you may need to do some adjusting there, or the sleeves rub against your elbow, or what have you. The pants don't fit a certain way. So that way you can make any adjustments you have. That way you don't have any distractions when you're responding, as well as you're comfortable having on that attire and responding to questions, especially when you're on the spot. Because I can say, once you're dressed up and you're in that mode, it kind of puts your mind frame in that mode, and it'll help you be more comfortable when you're there. That way it doesn't feel like you're a fish out of water. All right. So with that, I do want to go over tip number 3, and that's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And this is probably one of my favorite tips. And this is the one that's going to help you the most when it comes to acing that job interview. So with that, we're going to go over some strategies to help you with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And with that, you do want to develop strategies for answering challenging or uncomfortable questions. On the spot questions can bring out the nervousness for many candidates. However, preparing a strategy ahead can allow your responses to flow so there's no dead, awkward pause or fumbling over words. Try to avoid saying the first thing that comes to mind and stay calm. It's okay if you don't have an answer ready right on the spot. Just utilize one of the strategies along with your preparation, and the answers will come. They will come. All right. And next, we're going to go over, some strategies that you can use to help you with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So, some strategies you can, implement are repeating the question back. And these are more so when you're receiving those challenging or uncomfortable questions. Repeating the question back to the interviewer. Politely asking them to repeat the question. Coming up with a pivot word or phrase to use when searching for an answer, such as, "That's a good question." Acknowledge it is a challenging question and request a few more moments to respond to that question. That's okay. They respect that professionalism. Just don't take too long. And you should, be thinking while you're using that phrase. All right, another strategy to help you with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is to map out your route to the job interview. I'm sure some of you are like, well, what's so uncomfortable about that? Well, I must say, as a hiring manager and someone who has spent, some time in HR, that you get plenty of phone calls of potential candidates who are lost and late for the interview. And I'm sure that can be very uncomfortable to have to call for an interview where you're supposed to be in the lobby and you're lost. You're not even sure if you're on the right street, let alone if you're on the right floor or at the right office. You're not sure where you're at, and that can be uncomfortable. So, a strategy to get comfortable there is to map out your commute. So, although, some of you may be familiar with the area, you still want to take a look at the route ahead of time to ensure you get to the facility on time. And for those who take public transit, you can still go online and check out the schedules, and you can look up the address and check out a bus schedule. You can check out the train schedule and see how long it'll take you and what routes you'll need to take to get there. Again, the objective is to reduce any obstacles that could arrive to have you arrive late or have you stressed out during the interview, because that will create uncomfortability. And we want you to help. We want to help with, you getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because let's face it, and we're all in the workforce, and that's just a part of it. We're not on vacation. We are here to work, so you're not going to always be comfortable, but you do always want to be professional, and that's essentially what we're saying. So, if you're able to, ride by the facility before the interview, so you can get a feel for, there's a pothole there on the third light, or if there's a one way, and or if there's no U-turns, and you end up passing it. Like, it can help with those little things that could get you caught up in traffic. And even though you were prepared and you left early, you ended up being late because you didn't know that there wasn't a U-turn, and you have to go up the freeway 3 more exits and come back, and now you're in 30 more minutes of traffic that you could have beat. So if you're able to, I know some of you aren't. Now, if you're on public transit, if you're trained, I mean, there's no traffic really there unless there's just some technical issues. Bus, just make sure you take an earlier enough route to get there on time. And on time is arriving about 15, 30 minutes early. Anything after that, you're late. All right, but also, if you're conducting a video interview, and make sure you set up your camera, make sure the audio's working, make sure your internet's good to go. Try to dial in early, and make sure you have your notes ready. And that's for interviews, and try to get that taken care of ahead of time so there's no glitches there. All right, and another thing to help out with that uncomfortability is to review your bullet points. Read over your short list of bullet points that you've prepared back in the preparation stage to ensure you reduce any anxiety or stress prior to going into that interview. You want to make sure that you keep the questions and responses fresh on the brain to allow a flowing response. Try not to refer to the notes during the interview, but feel free to bring them along with you to review in the lobby or the waiting area. You will want to do the same for the video interview as well. So, try not to look at the notes during the interview, but try to do it right before, prep while you're in that lobby, or prep right before the video interview. All right. And another one to help out with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is ensure you get ample rest. I know that seems like, how is that related? But if you don't have ample rest, it can cause for a rough start to that day, which will just lead to a lot of uncomfortable moments, a lot of challenging opportunities when it comes to responses, when it comes to locating the facility and what have you. Let's keep in mind, we have a lot riding on the job, and it can be easy to have anxiety and stay up late nights, especially leading up to the big day. But be sure you get a good night's rest the entire week leading up to the interview. So you want to make sure you're developing good habits, and develop a routine for that week leading up. Uh, that way, you're not thinking about anything outside of the interview, and you've established a routine that, hey, I get up at 7 and I have breakfast and I get dressed, and I'm out the door. And you establish that every day. So that way, the time comes for the interview, you get up, you have breakfast, you go over your notes, you get out the door, and you're at the interview. You establish that routine. So it's not like you're running out the door. It's not like you're kind of caught off guard. And it's not like everything is getting thrown at you. You're actually on top of your day. And that can relieve so much stress and provide so much comfortability. And you'll have others sitting looking at you in the waiting room like, why is this one so casual, so nonchalant, and so prepared and focused? And it's because you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, you've gotten your rest. So ensure you do establish a good routine. And lastly, lastly, be sure to lay out your interview outfit the night before, because we don't want any hiccups on the big day. So, while you're getting ready to get that rest, pull out the clothes that you're going to be putting on, the nice threads, and make sure you have it ready to go. And it also will be a good reminder to get yourself in that bed so you can get some rest. All right. But I do hope everyone did enjoy today's webinar. I appreciate the time and you all tuning in. We definitely try to be support that you can count on, and we utilize our platform to make sure we help those who are helping us most, and that's our team members. So with that, I do want to make sure that everyone does reach out, if you didn't already. That way you can receive your certificate of completion, because that's what it's about, and it'll be a resume boost. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, if you definitely did enjoy the content. But I do thank you.